Welcome to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm your host, Daniel J, and alongside with me is Jaime and Big Blue as always. Today we're talking connections and imitations from Bryan Kohberger, the suspected and accused in the Idaho 4 incident, who has been arrested and charged with several counts. In reference to this case, we're going to be talking about some connections here. I'm your host, Daniel J. Alongside with me, Jaime G and Big Blue. How you guys doing today? We'll start off with you, Jaime.
I'm doing great, man. I just ate. I'm full right now. I'm feeling good.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. How about yourself, Big Blue? How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I got some rest today, so I'm good.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. So we'll get into the content. We've been talking about Bryan Kohberger for a minute here. We've been trying to figure out, we talked about how he entered the house. We have an idea of what occurred inside the house and how it was found and why the 911 call was made in the manner that it did. And you guys can go and check that. We put that out in the last couple of days. Go watch our videos and you'll see that. But one thing that we've had some struggle with is motive. Why is he doing this? What's the purpose behind it? And we've kind of found a couple of similarities here in a couple of different cases that are out there. And we wanted to explain those similarities to you guys. So we'll start off first talking about the incident that had occurred. This incident occurred in the early morning hours between 3 and 4 a.m. of November 13th in a off-campus a house housed by 6 females, and occupying the house that night were 5 females and 1 male. Ethan and Xana were occupied in the second bedroom. In a bedroom on the second floor. I'm sorry. Xana and Maddie and Kaylee were in the third floor. We suspect that the assailant, Bryan, entered the room and committed these crimes. Now, we've had a lot of questions. He came from Pennsylvania. He studied in DeSales University under Catherine Ramsland, who was the basically the author behind one of the BTK's autobiography. Worked very close with BTK, Dennis Rader. Jaime, we spoke about on the last show about the possibility of Bryan calling into a podcast, T-Rep's podcast, and speaking on the situation. And we thought at that point, would he do this? And would he be calling in, given his experience, his knowledge in criminology? You mentioned on that podcast something interesting. You said that BTK used to talk to the media. And I'm going to say that YouTube and YouTube channels are a form of media and a form of entertainment, of course, but form of media as well, because we're putting out news and information. How did Dennis Rader get caught again?
Oh, he got busted because he went on a hiatus for, I want to say, I think 8 years, and someone was taking credit for his crimes. And the newspaper brought it up and said, like, oh, this happened in the 70s, and nothing has happened since the 90s, like early 90s. So he wrote to that newspapers and let them know that he's still alive and well. Like, he's still alive. He just hasn't, either he hasn't done any crimes or he hasn't, confessed to any of them. But he reached out to the news, and then the news started working with law enforcement, and they started communicating back and forth. And one time, one of the last letters that he sent to the media was asking the law enforcement if they can track. He asked the law enforcement if they can track a floppy disk, like to see where it's from. Right. And they told the media put out that no, we can't. Right? Obviously, they can't.
Right.
So he sent in a floppy disk, and it ended up they sent it to forensic, and they ended up finding out that floppy disk came from a church that he attended.
Really?
Yeah, and it was on a specific computer and was under his login name.
And so, how long was BTK on the loose for?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
How long between his first crime and the time that he got busted? How long was he on the loose?
His first crime was in '74, and he got arrested in 2005.
Okay, so what do you know? What he was he an intelligent man? Was he an educated man? What do you do for a living?
Well, he was I believe he was a pastor at one point.
Gotcha.
Um, he worked. The reason he had access to these houses to get in, and he knew the layout, was because he also installed security alarms. He worked for a security alarm
Hmm.
company, so he will know exactly, where the rooms are, and if you go into a room, you can tell if that's the parents or the kids. You know what I mean? So he knew the layout, and once he
Wow.
knew the layout, he stalked the people and learned their schedules, like when they will be home, when they're not home.
So there's been some pings that have Brian, as far as his cell phone goes, his cell phone data hasn't pinged in similar places where the victims in Idaho were at weeks leading up to this incident.
Mhm.
How long did it ever come out? How long BTK would stalk his victims before he attempted the crime?
He called them projects. Like every crime he did, he called them projects. I don't think he ever mentioned the word victim in his confession. Actually, he called them projects. Um, he said it would take up to like a week.
Gotcha.
He will see the routines and then learn the routines, the schedules between
Right.
5 and 7 days.
And
Crazy.
you know what is that, Blue?
So that's pretty crazy. That I didn't know that they pinged them, following them.
Yeah, they've pinged Brian and the victims close to each other for a few weeks, according to news reports.
Mm,
It appears that he'd been stalking and watching them, uh, kind of following that trend. BTK, his first crime,
mhm.
eh, where do you know the details of that one? And
Uh,
if there's any similarities to what Brian committed in Moscow, Idaho?
yeah, BTK's first crime was it was a whole family. It was the mom, the dad, and the daughter and the son. Um, Pretty much he bind them. But the first time he didn't know the husband was going to be there. So
Gotcha.
the husband was kind of with a surprise when he went in through the back door. I think the son, Joseph, opened the door for him actually.
Really?
Yeah, and like he went in and he didn't expect the husband to be there. So
Gotcha.
that was like not that wasn't part of the plan. You know what I mean? So
Right.
and it's kind of similar too in this case because Ethan wasn't
He didn't live there.
he didn't live there. So, but yeah,
Right.
like he he went in and he subdued the husband, the mom and the kids. He separated them, put them in the restroom.
But
And,
he did more some torturous things, right? He
yeah,
and given his name.
he tied him up, tied him
Right.
up. He he would like to use that object and then try to intimidate people.
Right.
But his motive, most of the times, he would use strangulation will be the cause of death.
Got you.
You know what I mean?
Got you. So the method in which he committed the crime was different,
Mhm.
and the circumstances once he made entry is also a little bit different.
Yeah.
Now, he called them projects. We read and we went through some of the survey that he had put out, reaching to ex-cons and requesting them to come in and talk to him or do the survey, referencing how they felt during the commissioning of the crime, and what it sounded like a violent offense, in my opinion, based on the description of the survey questions. And again, guys, well, first and foremost, would you guys please hit that like and subscribe button? YouTube doesn't like this kind of content, and so in order to get it out to as many people as possible, we got to kick in the algorithm, and the best way to do that is hit the like, hit the subscribe. We encourage you guys to also hit the membership. If you do so, you'll be watching this significantly earlier than everybody else does. If you're watching this on the premiere, you could have seen it a couple of hours ago. And so I'm sorry for the shameless plug, but we got to put that out there so that we can reach more folks.
Definitely.
So back to BTK. So Bryan studied under his under Catherine, who worked closely with BTK.
Mhm.
BTK thought of his subjects or his victim as projects. Um, Bryan was working on the psychology of criminals and things of that nature.
Mhm.
Um, but it seems like the method and what happens once he made entry into the home seems different. Now that call to T-Rev by a guy that sounds very similar to Bryan. It was reported that the guy, well, first and foremost, the guy that called said that he was living in Utah. And I found that odd because when we spoke about this situation after our last live, we
Mhm.
were talking about that. We looked up Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy apparently went to Washington University. And
Mhm.
from there, he went to Utah. And so, you know, when this person who called, and I'm not saying that the person that called was Bryan, I found that coincidental that he would say Utah coming from Washington. Now, is there some similarities that you see in what Bryan has done with Ted Bundy? I think there was a sorority issue, a situation as well.
Yeah, Bundy got arrested in Utah, and he ended up being incarcerated in jail for like 3 days, and he escaped. He escaped, and what ended up happening, he took off. He took a plane, and then he took an Amtrak and got to Florida. And then the Florida, there was he went into a sorority house,
Hmm.
like I think it was in the beginning of the year. I think it was January 15th. I'm not really sure. January 15th, and it was around three o'clock in the morning when he went in there with. Some people some people say it was a branch, like a real branch, a heavy branch, and some people are saying it was more like a bat, like a wooden bat or something. You know what I
He
mean?
went in with some kind of blunt force object
And he went in there and he bludgeoned four sorority girls, and two of
at
them,
3 a.m.
yeah, between 3 a.m. and 3:30. And he bludgeoned four of them, and two of them survived, and the other ones did not.
So, Ted Bundy, where was Ted Bundy from?
Oh, he's from Washington.
So he was from Washington, went to school in Washington, but he fled cross country, similar to Bryan going across country from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Although the reason why he went across country is because
he
of
was. Yeah,
going to school, but he goes to Washington, where Bundy started his. That's where he started, right? It was in
yeah.
Washington.
Yeah.
So,
He went through a couple of states: man. He went from Washington, Oregon, Utah. No, went through a
including
couple,
Idaho, correct?
and also he had two victims in Idaho.
That's insane. And
Hmm.
so the similarities are that Bundy struck a sorority house between the hours of 3:30 and 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock and 3:30 in the morning,
Hmm.
and 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 took out four, or attempted to take out, assaulted four
Hmm.
members inside that house.
Yeah.
And Bryan obviously entered a house that was potentially an off campus sorority house. It's still under speculation if all girls were part of the same sorority or if they just lived together.
Mhm.
Uh, Went in there, attempted this, committed this crime on four individuals. Um, the person that calls in and states that he's calling from Utah, which is where Bundy went to.
Hmm. I believe Bundy had like 8 victims there too in Utah. Yeah, in Washington he had 11. So, I mean, he had he had victims wherever he landed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Not only that, but like just like Bryan, he has criminology background, and he
Hmm.
studied that. And then Bundy was studying law to be a lawyer. So he has that knowledge. He was super smart. Ted Bundy was super smart. he represented
Right.
himself in his own trial. I mean, even to the point where the judge said, "You're real smart. You know, if you would have chosen a different path, I would have loved to have you as a lawyer in my courtroom."
Yeah, I remember seeing something like that and hearing about that and thinking to myself, man, he charmed
Hmm.
the judge in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, in my opinion, it's one of those situations where I don't think that Brian has that type of charm or charisma to do the same or pull off the same.
Yeah.
He
Um,
might, man. I mean, I was reading that report where his professor was saying out of all these students, he's only chosen two in a long time to be in the PhD program, and he was one of them. So he was amazed by his intelligence in it. So he's a pretty bright guy.
Yeah.
you know, he mentioned that he was eager to get back to Idaho and to become exonerated, given his knowledge in criminology and the processes, you know, from police and law enforcement investigators.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if he planted things to maybe perhaps throw him off his case or trail. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, Bundy did the same thing. That he's talked to the media and told them like they're setting me up. I didn't do these things. You're gonna find out that I'm innocent. You know what I mean? So he did the same thing, Bundy.
really, what was Bundy's defense, that he was just the wrong guy,
Yeah, like misidentified them. I mean,
mistaken identity?
yeah, mistaken identity. I mean, even though he had like four or five witnesses that actually saw him, but the last thing, the one of the smoking gun that got him was in the sorority case. He ended up biting one of the girls. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah, and they made a cast of his teeth, and they fit perfectly on the bite mark.
Eh,
Really,
Yeah, that's why what some of the his case is sometimes referred as betrayed by your bite by the bite.
really,
Mhm.
that's interesting. And I just want to be 100% honest with everybody. I'm not well versed into past crimes. I'm more interested, you know, I'm interested in them, of course, but I'm more intrigued and pushed by true crime and current event stuff. Jaime being on our panel, being a you know, well versed in that is what really propels our channel forward, and I appreciate your input. Uh, so, what are, if any, do you see of similarities between BTK and Ted Bundy that you think that maybe perhaps Brian kind of mixes in as well?
Yeah. On BTK side, they're they're both the first crime was four people. I see that. BTK did use a sharp object, but didn't
Hmm.
use it. They just used it to intimidate the people or his victims. I mean. And I see that as there's
The security.
the security issue too.
For those
BTK
that don't know, Brian was a security guard for some time at his high school there in Pennsylvania.
and BTK was a security alarm installer, and
Right.
that's why he knew the layout of the houses that he would target. Um, Not only that, but like even the teacher, his professor, Brian's professor,
Hmm.
um, she knew a lot about BTK and interviewed him extensively to write her book. So all that, like, I feel like he was infatuated with these kind of cases, not just in BTK situation, but in this different other cases. You know what I mean?
Right. No, yeah, I'm starting to see that, and I'm starting to see a pattern here where this guy may not have what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to use the word imagination, and so he's kind of copying certain aspects of different crimes because I think that's the wrong word. But I don't feel like I can judge say it in another way, that he just doesn't have a way of thinking for himself, so to speak,
Mm.
and he's using what some other folks had done. Ted Bundy, how long was he? Um, how long did it take before he got caught,
Um,
or before he was accused the first time that he got? You know, the police were eyeing him.
the first time, it wasn't the first time had his first victim was in '74, I believe. Yes, '74. He got arrested in '77. He escaped in the same year. I think he only escaped for like 4 days, and they recaptured him, and then they extradited him, I believe, to Utah,
Hmm.
and then there he escaped again. He was out for a couple of months, like 3 months, and that's when he ended up in Florida and doing that to the sorority house
Dang.
while he was on the run.
I didn't even
So
know
he
he had
escaped twice.
twice.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did he escape? Do you know?
The first time he escaped from the inside the court library, they had a library, and he has to use the phone to call his. I believe he at that time it was already his wife, I believe, and he jumped out of a window, like a second story window.
Oh, gee. And the second time?
The second time, I believe he starved himself and to make sure he can get out through an air duct,
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
something like that. Yeah,
That's insane, man. I had no idea those things, and I'm sure, there's, a lot of our viewers who may not have known those things that appreciate this information because it does kind of paint a little bit clearer of a picture of
yeah.
what Brian was studying, what he was looking into, especially when you're looking at the psychology of a criminal. You're going to look at, and if you're looking at violent crimes, you're going to study up and you're going to look into those that had those high profile cases,
Mhm.
BTK, Ted Bundy, etc. Right? Um, I started picking on these um, similarities real quick. I mean, we're talking about because I asked why Washington, why go to Washington. I'm sure, there's as smart as he is and as intelligent as he is, he could probably get his schooling done closer to home.
Mhm.
He doesn't seem like apparently he doesn't like to fly. There's been a release of the body cam footage where and it was a planned trip before the semester that his dad was going to fly down there and they were going to drive across country back to his house
Mhm.
in Albertsville or Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, there near Scranton, PA. Uh, that was already planned because he didn't like to fly and those type of things. And so why go that far, if that ends up being the case? And so my thought is maybe he's mimicking or following the footsteps of somebody and going that distance makes sense where that's also maybe not the same place
Yeah.
that Ted Bundy started at but definitely in the same state and kind of following the same path, so to speak. You see the sorority similarities. You see that him entering there at 3 a.m. The time frame in which this incident occurred was between 3 and 4. A lot of those similarities. Did Ted Bundy drive his car
Uh,
to the
um,
places?
yeah, it was a Volkswagen. It's a yellow tannish Volkswagen. Not sure what year it was, but that was like that was the description everybody gave out, like the witnesses. So they, oh,
Yeah.
we saw a man with a cast, asking for help in a yellow or tannish Volkswagen. So I mean, that's how he got caught. This guy Bundy was cruising the streets through this neighborhood real slow, and a patrol car saw him, and as soon as he lit him up, he kind of booked it, and then he
Hmm.
stopped because he supposedly got scared, and that's when he figured out, oh, this guy's wanted in another state, so they booked him, and that's how he got caught.
Dang, man, that's insane. That is
Mhm.
insane. Do you have any questions, Big Blue, for Jaime?
No, no, man. I think my theory one that I wanted to say was I think a lot of those older serial killers got away a lot more often because they didn't have the type of technology we have today, man. Like
Yeah.
you get pulled over, they run your license, everything pops up now. You know what I mean? Back then,
Mhm.
you could have lied, you could have had a fake license. Now you can't have all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, in the last show was like, man, the technology we have now, it's easier to for these kind of people to stalk the victims, but yet it's harder. It's easier for them to get caught. You know what I mean?
For
Um,
sure.
and like even in the BTK case, like that media, the newspaper is the equivalent of like YouTube now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I was saying and thinking like, if this guy did call in, right?
Hmm.
And, would that be his way of contacting the media, maybe perhaps trying to throw people off of his trail? Um, if he was doing that, do you think he suspected that they were onto him? If he felt the need to call into a YouTube show to throw direction at Sigma Chi fraternity by stating that they had questions for him in the last 10 years, referencing, how to get away with a crime like this. Man, you would think that if this guy studied these guys, that he'd also know how they got caught and try not to go down the same path. But then again, I mean, this guy's also been known to, he was on heroin, which he may not be on heroin anymore, or he may be clean, or whatever the case may be. But that's not the most intelligent move to make initially. And so, maybe he's not as intelligent as we think. Maybe it's just book smart. He's able to recall things, and that could be, there's so many things it could be. Go ahead.
You'll be surprised, like these other cases, like Btk, Ted Bundy, these people who do these kind of, crimes. You'll be surprised how smart they are. Ed Kemper was a co-ed. He killed people, but what's he called? He was super smart, man. He's super smart.
Yeah.
He has a really high IQ. I mean, to the point where he knew he was never going to be able to stop, so he turned himself in. You know what I mean?
Really? And who was this again?
Edmund Kemper. He's the co-ed killer.
And when was he active?
Oh man, he actually started out by taking care. His first victims were his grandma and grandpa, man.
Jeez.
He was 15 years old when that happened, and he was put into a mental institution for 5 years, and then let go at 20 to his mom, the custody of his mom, and his mom was working for a school, for a university, and he would use his mom's car. His mom's car had a sticker for the teachers parking, right. So he would pick up co-eds. And the co-eds will feel, safe because he's a teacher. I mean, he's just trying to help us out. So they will see that sticker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he did that for 4 or 5 months. 4 or 5 months, like just studying how he can put the co-eds to at ease.
Yeah.
And then he started taking them home or taking them to the woods and committed his crimes there.
Now, the only reason he got caught is because he turned himself in?
Well, there's a little bit more to that. His mom was super horrible to him, like, throughout his whole childhood. And
right.
His mom was real domineering, and he always wanted that. He always wanted to have a connection with her, but she kind of didn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
The night, he ended up, and his last victims were actually his mom and his mom's friend. And
geez.
And he took off, and he called the police on himself. He's like, "If you go to this address, you'll find the bodies. I'll be here waiting for you, so you can pick you up." Because he knew he was going to stop.
How many did he end up?
Let's see, he did 6 co-eds. His grandparents, and his mom and the mom's friend. So,
what about BTK? How many victims did he end up having?
I believe he had 10 or 11. Yeah.
And Ted Bundy?
Bundy confessed to 30, but it's speculated to be over close to 75, man.
Jeez.
Yeah. You're not. What's that?
That's a big number, man.
You still haven't heard about Gary Ridgway. He's suspected of like 150 plus.
Dang, man.
And there's a lot of cases out there that you'll be, and then not only is the amount of victims, it's also what they do to these victims. You know what I mean? Because every person that do these crimes have different MOs. Like some have they do suffocation, some others do other things. You know what I mean? Like more brutal, sloppy stuff, you know what I mean? That we can't say here on YouTube because we'll get demonetized.
And we'll get shut down. We'll get the stuff won't go out there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just leave it at that, and hopefully y'all can go out there and do your own little research because we can't say those words here.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I'm just running through my head trying to see if there's anything else I want to ask as far as potential
Mhm.
similarities between these cases. Um, how big or what was the stature of Ted Bundy? He wasn't that big of a guy. He didn't look like a big guy, right?
I believe he was like close to 6 foot. I want to say like 5'11".
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but he was a thin guy, similar to Brian's stature, about 6 foot, 185.
yeah. He had a lot of fans, man. He had a lot of women after him. He was real handsome. He was
Mm.
really articulate, charismatic. Uh, so like him, like he had a lot of fans. I mean, to the point where he married someone, and while he was
Yeah,
going through his trial.
that's insane, man.
Mhm.
That's
Ed,
absolutely insane.
Edmund Kemper was 6'9", 300 pounds, like
Jeez,
295 pounds. Dude was huge, but
talk about
Yeah.
Michael
the dude is
Myers, Rob
big.
Zombie.
Yeah, he's big. He's a big dude. He's still alive. They give him life. He's gonna be there until he passes away. He's 74 years old, and I mean you can find his interviews all over YouTube. Real good. He's real smart.
Yeah.
So, do you think that if Brian didn't get caught, if
Mhm.
this was his first time, do you think he would have done it again?
If he really did do these crimes, because obviously innocent right until proven guilty.
Yes, sir.
If he did, the 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 hints are there. You know what I mean? The clues are there that he probably would have done it again.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
'Cause
Yeah,
I think
Um,
if he was like scared about it or didn't think he was gonna get away with it, he probably would have told his parents, "Hey, I need a lawyer. Let's find a lawyer now before they come get me."
mm,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think he if he was the one calling in to T-Rev, yeah, T-Rev.
Right. T Rev.
If that call can be confirmed, it was him. Like you can tell right away that that guy was not afraid.
Yeah.
That
Right.
he has a different. Most of these people who do these crimes, they don't have this what's it called? They don't feel remorse. They don't feel guilt. They lack that, you know.
For
And
sure.
so like, if he's actually the one calling in, then he's trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree. And there's been some speculation, and this came from, man, I don't know if I want to, because you can see everybody's conversation. Let me see if I can save this real quick.
Crop it.
Yeah, I'm going to save it. Let's see if I can get it in there. And then I'll pull this up. One of our good followers and friends of the show named Peter sent us there was another image of a guy that was talking on,
Mhm.
um, I think it was like TikTok, and he was pointing a phone at a screen while he was talking. And people say that he kind of resembles
Yeah.
um, Brian.
Mhm.
I'm going to see if I can pull that up without it
Yeah, I saw
showing
that.
all the messages. Yeah. I was trying to pull that up without it showing all the messages because I don't want to expose anybody who sent me this stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'll have it for tomorrow's live show. And guys, tomorrow we have a special guest on the show. We have somebody who was actually friends with Brian previously, prior to this situation, quite a while ago, actually. Just coming on, talk to us a little bit about her relationship with Brian and who he was then, and we'll be able to talk with her, and you'll be able to catch that. So please hit that like and subscribe buttons. You don't want to miss it. Ring that notification bell as well. I'm trying to figure out. I might just have to screen record it and then show it tomorrow. I don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't want to put this guy's information out there. Um, Big Blue, are you seeing the similarities here? And what are your thoughts? Do you think he's Brian? That is he trying to follow the footsteps of other killers that have gone a while without getting caught, so to speak?
I mean, I see that there's a 3 a.m. similarity, but I, he didn't do the same type of killings.
Mhm.
Um, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that word, but I think
I think we said it like 3 times.
Yeah,
We all did, I think.
I think he messed up somewhere where they caught him, man. Like he wasn't as good as the other guys. He was sloppy.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. And I think that the question always comes in. There was 6 people in the house.
Mhm.
All these cars parked up front. Had he been watching them? Had he been seeing them? My, I'm starting to think and wonder if maybe perhaps he entered the house while they were gone and waited for them to come home and and Ethan and wasn't part of the plan perhaps,
Mhm.
and he was already in the house by that point. By the time they came home, and unfortunate events that occurred after that. Um, I see what you sent me, Jaime. What's this referencing?
Oh, because I remember you were talking to the person who sent you those screenshots, not screenshots, but the pictures of the reflection on the computer.
Yes, sir.
And I saw that a lot of people. The last time I mentioned something about their ears, like serial killers have certain type of s- things that they have. They can,
Features,
yeah, features they can kind of like
characteristics.
characteristics they have, and one of them that a lot of people or a lot of like that done the studies have noticed that they have a lower ear. Their ears are a lot lower than where their eyes should be. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah. So like that's like not all the time, but like most of the
Right.
people who do this have that characteristic.
Malformed ears, adherent earlobes, lower edge of the ear is extended upward and backward towards the crown of the head. Um, as the symmetrical ears, very soft or very pliable ears, high, high steepled palate, roof of mouth is definitely steepled or flat and narrow, forward tongue with deep ridges, speckled tongue with either smooth or rough spots. I'm all checking my tongue right now. Curved with finger, curved fifth finger marked curved toward the other fingers or slight claw-like curve toward other fingers. Singular transverse palm crease, aka simian crease, a single crease extending across the palm and hand formed by the fusion of two palmar creases known as the palmistry, as the heart line and the headline. Third toe longer than second toe equivalent length. Man, I know some folks like that.
Yeah. There's that they did a study with um, serial killers that they noticed that these characteristics, these features are common on these type of um, criminals. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
It's crazy, right?
That is crazy,
Yeah.
man. Uh,
Also, there's most of these people that do these crimes. They also had like trauma to the head. Like they had like they've been hit real hard in the head and maybe concussion to the point to concussion, and
yeah.
that triggers something. You know what I mean? I don't
CTE.
I don't I don't think I don't think I don't think serial killers are born. I think it all has to do with the environment also. Like, with the family structure. There's a lot of
Yeah.
things that go
There's
in that hand in hand.
right. There's a lot of studies going on right now. I'm a NFL fan, so there's a lot of studies going on with concussion and side effects of concussions and CTE
Mm-hmm.
being one of them. Basically, being when the brain bruises and it heals. That CTE is a what's the word I'm looking for? It's what happens afterwards, and that sometimes aggression and or depression and all these other types of feelings that
So
are
after effect,
elevated. Yeah, those are the type of after effects and side effects of having CTE. Very plausible. I mean, when it comes to Brian, though, it appears he came from a good family. They're in a, his sister is a therapist, and
mhm.
he went to college. He's getting his, he was enrolled in PhD school. Um, you know,
That's what we were
you know,
talking about earlier. I sent a photo earlier, and it said he did get his PhD in 2020.
Mm.
no, I think it was, and I'll look it up real quick. I
Isn't
thought
that?
he got his bachelor's in 2020 and then his master's in 2022 out of DeSales University. But I'll look it up just to make sure
Yeah.
we're accurate. Um, college.
Oh yeah, he got his master's in 2020. That's
Mm.
right.
I believe it was just in 2022. Oh man, this is weird. So apparently he whispers, and I'm just reading this real quick.
Mhm.
I'll share it once it populates. That it's the New York Post, so sometimes it takes forever. But he whispered, "I love you" to his family or something like that, to somebody. I'm not sure to who. Uh,
If Brian, let's say he was trying to copycat, right, or trying to follow the same footsteps of BTK, if that's the case, let's just say that it is. Um, BTK, when he got caught, he confessed to every single thing he did, and like, just like in every single little detail he gave out. Like, so if that's the case, if he's trying to do the same thing that BTK did, then I expect him to confess.
but he's also doing some things that Ted Bundy did, and Ted Bundy didn't confess.
Well, he never did. He never did. But like you can put. I mean, even you also have Tommy Lynn Sells. Same thing. Confessed also after he got caught here in Del Rio.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
That is insane. So I got this. This says
I totally doxed myself.
Yeah.
he totally did.
That
Uh,
that is one of the
accused.
cases we did cover early during our first YouTube episodes.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. We talked about Tommy Lynn Sales. I don't know if we did a show dedicated to him, but we did definitely talk about him. It
Not
says
yet.
here, accused Idaho killer, the college killer, Kohberger, said, "I love you" to his family as he agreed to be extradited from Pennsylvania to Idaho in his first court hearing. Handcuffed, wearing a red prison jumpsuit. The man accused of, yeah, and it goes further on to it. Let's just see right here. It says, he answered a series of yes or no questions about his decision to waive his extradition hearing. Mr.
Mhm.
Kohlberger, do you suffer from any mental health or diagnosis or take prescribed medications or medication that would impact the ability to understand what we're doing here today? Presiding Judge Margarita Worthington, Majerita Worthington asked. No, he answered. Do you wish to waive your rights to voluntarily return to the state of Idaho and fake prosecution? The judge asked. Yes, the 28-year-old suspect responded. The short hearing lasted about 10 minutes and paved the way for him being transported to authorities to Idaho, where he was formally charged with the case. And so, alleged led into court around 3:24 p.m., handcuffed and attached to his belt. And this is a picture of him. I'm gonna bring up one thing before we let everybody go. Um, let's see.
He's not a big dude, is he? He's
Not
tall.
really. He's wearing a. He's also wearing a protective
Yeah.
um,
Be- because when I saw him, like,
vest.
when he exited, oh, this they're gonna show it, right? Like the cops actually make him look a little bit smaller. Some big
Yeah,
cops, man.
yeah. Some of them do. So this is him walking into court, and this is him. We're going to be walking back out. But just to kind of give us an idea, he seems pretty tall.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
tall, but he's not. No, he's not big, like body wise, like mass.
No, he's not. He's to think that this is the man that possibly committed this crime,
Hmm.
and to think just like a little over a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, what this guy did. It's just eerie to watch him walk down the hallway.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. He has a haircut for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just it's to think that this guy possibly took the lives of 4 people,
Hmm.
and to be one of these guys around him, to know that the guy that you're escorting is one of the guy. It could be that guy. It's got to be an eerie feeling as well.
Hmm. It's crazy.
It definitely is, man. It definitely is. Guys, please hit us up in the comment section. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know if you guys see a connection between BTK and Ted Bundy to Bryan Kohberger. Do you guys think that he was perhaps following in the footsteps of these high profile well-known serial killers and trying to imitate what they were doing. Let us know in the comment section. Do you guys have any last words for everybody before we let them all go out? Start off with
Uh,
you, Big Blue.
yeah, man. I just wanted to say, our prayers go out for the Bills player that got hurt yesterday, man. He's in some serious. He had a heart condition that was pretty rare, and I pray for his family and hope everything turns out well. Who knows if he can play again?
Yeah, I got some news earlier. I cover the Pittsburgh Steelers with the State of the Steelers. If you guys are fans of of the Pittsburgh Steelers, go find me there. I also cover the Steelers through Behind the Steel Curtain. They're an SB Nation podcast that I talk about the Steelers on Saturday, and so um, within that group, Bill's Mafia and their podcast group is, also part of SB Nation. And so we've got some news that it seems like he's doing better and he's recovering, but there's also a lung issue. Apparently, he had a lung collapse as well at the same time. And so,
That's what I figured, man. I figured he either had a lung collapse or a punctured lung from the hit.
yeah, apparently he got. It's not been put out there for sure, but based on YouTube doctors, he got hit in the right spot, which caused his heart to go out of rhythm and then create the cardiac arrest. I suspect that because I saw the hit, it didn't look that brutal, to be honest with you. Um, I thought maybe perhaps he had an underlying issue, maybe some kind of cardiac issue prior to, basically saying that had he not been on the field, that he may have had some kind of cardiac issue very relatively soon. Him being on the field around medical staff and their quick response, you know, is probably a positive thing in this situation.
Yeah, it probably helped save his life.
Exactly. I think had he been at home or on the road driving or whatever the case may, or on the flight back
But imagine like
from
just a pickup game somewhere, you know what I mean, in the playground. Somebody gets
exactly.
hit like that. By the time the ambulance gets there, if they don't know CPR, it could be a different circumstance for that person.
Yeah, for sure. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Mr. Hamlin and the Buffalo Bills and their extended family. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all of the victims in this case as well. It's a senseless act and one that we hope that justice will be served to the fullest and very soon. And we'll be covering it as soon as he gets to Idaho, which is expected probably within the next few days. I know that the court issued that there's a 10-day, um, it's up to 10 days. I'm sure it's going to happen sooner once he touches foot in Idaho. He also will be privileged to the probable cause affidavit that will be released, and I'll be able to see it. We'll go through it one piece at a time, very much so like we went through the Delphi Richard Allen probable cause affidavit. We're able to go through that and put a pretty detailed timeline based on that information about the events in that crime. Please go check that out. You'll find that in our murder mystery playlist below. Just look us up. But for Jaime, for Big Blue, I'm Daniel J. This is the Drunk Turkey Show. We appreciate everybody that's been a part. Y'all be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, we have a friend of Bryan Kohberger's coming on the show tomorrow to talk a little bit about her experience with Bryan and any backstory that could help us figure his type of character.
Yeah.
That being said, y'all have a great night. Peace.
Later, man. Take care.